Welcome, fans of ski racing. You've reached the proper location for the Path to the Podium Zoom presentation. We're just going to wait for participants to arrive, as that is a gradual process. So looking forward to some really good conversation tonight with some of Canada's best ski racers and their supporting families. We'll be talking about a lot of things and helping you ski racing families and you young racers out there figure out, what your path to the podium might look like. And so we're very excited. This is the third annual Zoom event that we've done under the banner of Path to the Podium. And it's our effort to really kind of bring the community together for discussion around ski racing, why it's so awesome, and what we can all do to make the sport successful into the future. So my name's Nick Hamilton, and I am I'm just a fan. I'm a fan of ski racing. I grew up ski racing at a very young age, have a passion for it, big fan all around, and continue to watch the sport. Ski out of Georgian Peaks Club here in Collingwood, Ontario, and been building on this platform of success and community discussion for a good number of years. And so what is the Path to the Podium, we might ask? Well, we began a number of years ago by just a core group of individuals that were mostly family members, frankly, supporting racers on the national team. And it began pretty innocently by just having kind of an annual celebration, talking about the sport, talking about the legacy of Canadian racing, and talking about the challenges of being a Canadian racer. And most importantly, saying, how can we beat the best in the world? How can we continue to be relevant? So we've examined ways that we can foster that discussion, but also we try to figure out ways that we can support the team directly. Ski racing is a very resource intensive sport, requires a lot of money and know-how and expertise. And the Path to the Podium is a community effort to really give a leg up to the athletes, to help ACA with additional fundraising to narrow the gaps in existing years' fundings of programs. So in a very Canadian way, what I'd say the Path to the Podium is, it's a bit of our tribal campfire. It's the fire that we come around that represents our passion, and to talk about what we need to talk about to make it as good as it can be. So I welcome you to our proverbial campfire. So tonight we're going to talk about the why and the how. We're going to talk about why we love the sport so much and how we can foster future success. So I'm very, very excited to introduce to you some of our panelists, which are some of the best ski racers in the world, men and women. And firstly, I'm going to introduce Jeff Read. So Jeff Read is Canadian ski team member now for 8 years, and he's been a teammate with fellow friend Jack, and I think you guys are still roommates, if I'm not mistaken, unless there's been a falling out. He's twice winner of the NORAM downhill title, and he's had some breakthrough results in 2021 with a number of top 20 results, and in 2022 finished 7th in the downhill at Kitzbuhel. Last season he was 5th in the Super G at the World Cup Finals in Andorra, and a bronze medal in the mixed team event at the World Championships, which we'll get to. So welcome, Jeff. Next up is his teammate and bestie, Jack Crawford. So Canadian ski team member for 9 years now. He in 2021 had a few top 10s, and then in 2022 had 6 separate 4th place results and 2 podiums, including the Olympic bronze medal and alpine combined. In 2023, really solidly in the mix with the best in the world, with 2 silver medals in Beaver Creek and Bormio, and then what I characterize as a mind-blowing World Championship gold medal in the Super G at Courchevel, France. So welcome, Jack. And then pleased to have Ali Nullmeyer, Canadian ski team member, 9 years now, since 2015, silver medal in the slalom at World Juniors in 2017, overall NORAM title winner in that same year. Also went to Beijing Olympics in 2022, 41 World Cup starts, and now just last weekend, 2 back-to-back 6th place results at the opening races, slalom races in Levy to start the season. Ali, you're rocking it. So well done and welcome to this. And for some of you who want to get to know Ali a little bit better, the current issue of Escarpment Magazine has an awesome feature with Ali that talks about her story, and it's fascinating. So I encourage you to check that out. All right, so another super interesting fact, these 3 athletes that we have with us today in 2017 were, when they were all aspiring racers, they competed together in the team event at the World Junior Championships in Åre, Sweden, and won the gold medal. So they beat the best in the world at their age level, and this is what they call in the biz foreshadowing. So very excited, and that's a very cool fact, guys. So I'm going to intro the parents too, because we can't forget about them. They're, you know, they're just as exciting, and they're part of this support network that we're really trying to feature tonight. So intro to the parents who have a very good pedigree in the sport. Introducing Ken Read, one of Canada's Crazy Canucks, who's 10 years on the World Cup, first North American male to win a World Cup downhill. And wins include also a Kitzbuhel and Wengen, both in 1980 in the same year. With 14 World Cup podiums, welcome Ken Read. Angus Crawford, so, you know, deep pedigree in the sport, brother to Judy Crawford. Judy had 23 top 10 finishes on the World Cup from 1969 to 1974. And that's actually a very impressive stat. And she was 4th at the Olympic slalom in 1972. Welcome Angus. And Brad Nullmeyer, father to Ali, fellow Georgian Peaks member and support system to Ali. So welcome, Brad. So jumping into the meat of the order, what I want to do is to start with some video highlights of the athletes and to get some comments. So if you'll bear with me, I'm just going to switch over to video, and I'm going to share with you some pretty cool stuff here. All right, so hopefully you can see my screen here. And Mr. Crawford, we're going to start with you because wanted to feature your run, your Super G winning run in Courchevel, and was hoping maybe you could just take a minute before I run the video to talk about your mental state, your season briefly leading up to this, and then I'm going to get you to talk through the run.
Yeah, so I guess during that season, coming into the year, I started off pretty strong and felt good through the whole year, but actually coming into the World Champs, I was on a little bit of a lower point in my season, and I think coming into the World Championships, it just allowed me to focus on what needed to happen technically and tactically in order to succeed. And on that day, I was able to put it all together.
Yeah. And so what was going through your head in the start, or were you thinking much at all?
Not much. It's pretty similar for me every time I get into the start gate. It's quite mellow, and then about 5 minutes out, it's just all about focusing on the things that need to happen. And that day felt very similar to a lot of the other days that I get to race those courses. But yeah, I don't know. It's always hard to talk through a run. It happens so fast. I can't really remember a lot of the feelings from the actual skiing that day. But what I do know is that I remember parts of the course that were a lot of fun and a lot of key sections. And this one coming up was one of those sections. It was really important to execute this big delay strong in order to carry speed into the bottom pitch. And something that I felt like I did well this day was skied quite efficiently and didn't waste energy. And then down this bottom pitch, which is a lot steeper than it looks, I was able to bring my top level skiing and reel in some of the best guys in the world and fortunately take the win.
Yeah, exceptional. The body language really shows you're really charging that fall line, and very, very good flow.
And lucky, on the lucky side of the time.
I'll never forget seeing in all the replays the Kilday throwing his gloves.
Yeah. Yeah, he's probably pretty mad. That's one thing on his resume that I don't think he has yet is a world champs win. So
Yeah,
he might have to wait. He might have to wait till next year.
yeah,
Or he does have to wait till next
does
year.
have to wait. Yeah, and so Angus, from a father and the family, maybe can you talk a little bit about witnessing this, watching this, that it takes some time to resonate with you and Laurel?
He was skiing well on the top, but I think I realized he had really had a chance to win on that pitch because he just seems so smooth on the skis. The arc, the turns, and you could actually see him pick up speed. So we couldn't believe it at the end, 1/100th of a second. So it was fantastic and fascinating to watch.
Yeah. And your first win as a world championship win. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it still doesn't count though on the World Cup circuit. It's just a world champs win. The elusive World Cup win still has to wait.
Yeah. No, well, that's awesome. So wanted to share that. So, and of course, this picture captures a lot, right? This is your celebration and the team all together, just glowing. So it probably feels like a dream to you, but
yeah, it was definitely. I think it was definitely an exceptional day for me. But I think our team as a whole, it definitely shows what we're all capable of. The other guys on the team are right there with me, and I'm definitely not the only one who is going to be sitting on top of the shoulders in the next few years. I think it's a team effort, and all of our wins and everything that we go through, it'll be good as a group.
yeah, no, for sure. And teamwork, we're going to talk about a little bit too. I did throw in this picture too from Laurent Saint-Germain's win too. And Ali, you've got her on your shoulders there. That's a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, no, I made sure I was one of the ones holding her up there. I was a little bit selfish, but yeah, that was a really cool day. She's just such a good athlete, works so hard. So we were all really happy to see her up there.
Yeah, and you were 12th that day, that same race, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a great result too. And we'll have more from you in a second, but I just love seeing these beaming faces, and like for us to recognize as fans, and I really feel the need to underscore what has just happened in Canadian ski racing. 2 world championships, 1 male, 1 female. You guys are making it easy for us, or should make it easy for us, right? To be fans and to get you guys more support. That's kind of how we're approaching this. So the next thing we're going to do is kind of jump to the team event. So Jeff, I know this was, you had participation in this, and we don't show all of your run, but we show kind of like the sequence that I think is pretty awesome to watch. So maybe you can talk a bit about, what that experience was like as I play the runs here.
Yeah, I mean, what was crazy was leading into this, we didn't even have a team. There was maybe a bit of a plan to do it, and I had skied the entire downhill and down Super G series before this, and had no idea that, it was kind of just an idea, and it came together after the last race. We're like, why don't we put a team together? And here we are. It was a bit of a last minute toss up, and we didn't come in with any expectations, but I knew that Eric, of course, has done this discipline a lot and had a lot of success in it, and Val is a phenomenal GS skier, and she was able to translate that into parallel really well. And so it turned out to be a team that was pretty strong. And for sure, Britt and I we got a little lucky, I'd say. And we were there when they needed them. But that's, again, the thing is that if either of us didn't participate, then we wouldn't have even had a team in the event. Despite Eric and Val really kind of pulling us along, it was a team effort, and we were supporting each other. And yeah, there's a special moment where the Read brothers win the medal together. And yeah, I mean, that's something you remember for life. It's pretty cool to be in our individual sport to actually win something together. And that's just like such a special day. And it's cool to have the collaboration that you have in a team event, and it's something that I look forward to competing in more in the future. But it's something that I'll remember forever. And yeah, I mean, it shows that anything can kind of happen in that discipline. And I think that we could have even gotten the win that day if we'd got maybe a couple honeys here and there. But we were still just unbelievably stoked to come away with the bronze medal.
Yeah, I love that you beat the Austrians there too, because they're formidable, as we all know, right? So that's extra sweet, I'm sure. And that moment I saw you guys embrace too, watching it, I was just like, oh, this is awesome. And Ken, what was your reaction? I mean, I got to ask the family members how they respond from the couch or from wherever you were watching.
Well, when you sit at home and you're watching it on television, especially in the early hours of the morning. The other thing I'll mention that I think it's, am I correct, Jeff, that you had to go through the Swiss team first?
Yeah, we faced the Swiss team in the second round and wiped them out.
Yeah, so they beat the Swiss team first, the top ranked team, and then beat the Austrians for the bronze medal in the what they called the small final. Yeah. So it was a nail biter for quite a while. And that's watching these guys in parallel. And the thing is knowing Jeff's experience from the World Juniors, knowing Eric's experience over many years, and he was on the silver medal team that won a bronze in Belle Beaver Creek in the previous World Championships, and then they've had good success in the Pro Tour as well. And then knowing Val, it was just a question for her of her confidence, because she has the skill set. And Britt she's the youngest athlete on the whole World Championship team, and so this was a newcomer for her. But for 3 out of the 4, they've been participating in this type of event. It's called the Bozo Cup at Norquay in the spring of every year, and they've been doing it ever since they were U12s. And so there was a ton of parallel experience that's come with being able to step into this event and have a confidence to take on the best in the world.
Yeah, no, just fantastic. And Britt is just one ball of muscle too. I saw her at the NORAMs at Georgian Peaks, and she could probably overhead squat me over her head there. So, but no, sensational. And but what a moment to see just what you probably wouldn't have expected to have seen a moment like that, where the Read brothers are celebrating together for a World Championship medal. So I think that's just awesome. So,
and I'll add that this was in a succession that you had Jack kick it off with his gold medal, Cam Alexander with his bronze medal the next day, the team event where they got the bronze medal, and then Laurence as the icing on the cake, which all added up to being a best ever performance for the Canadian team at the World Alpine Ski Championships.
Yeah, I know, just top of the world. All right, so more recent news. Ali, this is your Saturday second run from Levy, and was hoping you could kind of maybe describe how things went in the first run and your approach going into the second run, and then I'll start to play it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of been going into this season a little bit different than past seasons. In the past, I've been a bit caught up with results and stuff. So this year, I just really wanted to go out and kind of get out of my own way a little bit and just let myself ski. So that was really my mindset going into first run. And I mean, result-wise, I was in 20th or something, and for me, I was really happy with that because I skied super solid levies. been a tough place for me in the past. So I felt like I had a solid first run that I could build on. So yeah, going into second run, I really just kind of tried to let myself ski and clear my head. And yeah, I mean, I think that's what I did. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like Jack, like I really wasn't thinking much the whole way down, just trying to push a few like technical things, but honestly just kind of letting myself ski and trying to go as hard as I could because I really had nothing to lose. So yeah.
Push, push, push. But yeah, you look really fluid, very confident.
Yeah, and this pitch has never been my friend. So to kind of ski down it and actually feel good on it this year was probably one of the biggest wins I'm taking away from this past weekend. And yeah, I mean, it's like the girls, the circuit right now is just so competitive. So to know that I'm kind of right up there with some of those really, really fast girls, that was honestly just really cool.
Yeah, well done. Well done. And Brad, what would you say? I mean, and actually just to make a comment, like for you to back it up with as good a result the very next day is tremendous. So what would you add to that? Did you just kind of rinse and repeat, more or less take the same approach and take that confidence forward?
Yeah, I mean, it was the same thing for me the next day. I really just tried to clear my head and let myself ski. Again, I maybe a little bit more nerves because I did have a good result under my belt, so you always want to recreate it. But you know, in the start gate again, just tried to really like get that all out of my head and just let myself ski. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with how it went.
Great start to the season. And Brad, what would you say you watch this and how do you respond and react?
Yeah, we as Ken said, we watched it at 4 o'clock in the morning. So those are early mornings, especially when they're back to back at Levy. And you'll notice my introduction to ski pedigree was absolutely zero. So I'm not a skier late in life. And so, you know, as far as I do, we just support Allie and tell her to do her very best. And back when Allie was at Georgian Peaks in the famous Joe Louis race, which you got a Joe Louis if you finished it, she asked me before the race if she could go as fast as she wanted to go. And I said yes. And I just remind her that just go out and clear your brain and let your skill take over and have fun doing it. And I can tell, although I'm not a ski guy, I can certainly tell when I watch Allie whether she's having fun doing it and enjoying it and not sort of struggling. So very exciting, but nerve-wracking as a parent, obviously, as you've heard from the other parents.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I mean, slalom seems visually more complicated, not as fast, but yeah, certainly I can understand those stress factors. So so that's awesome. So I'm just going to try to stop sharing and get back to it. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about teamwork, guys, because I'd like to just pose a question to the athletes. And it's maybe one we've talked about before, but when you see your teammates achieve a really good result, top podium, or they win, how much does that motivate you? Or how would you describe the team dynamics that create motivation for you to do the same? Jack, do you want to start on that?
Sure. I think from every athlete, the perspective on that's going to be a little bit different. But for me, it's a lot about just having healthy competition and being able to go out every day with those people and know that their goal is pretty similar to yours, and that can give you confidence that the people that you're racing around and you're trying to compete with are giving you the same feedback that you're trying to give them with like how hard they're pushing, the amount of intent they have on each day. And then when it comes to results, I think for everybody, the guys that you're training with, when they succeed, it gives you a little bit of confidence knowing where you stack up with them in training. But at the same time, I think everybody that you're training with you don't want to lose to them either. There is a little bit of an individual, sorry, let me rephrase that. It is an individual sport, so there is a level of competition between each other, and as much as you're happy for the person, it motivates you to kind of be like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to go out and beat that guy. And as long as, for me, as long as that's a healthy relationship and healthy environment that you're in, it produces success. And I think our team is a good candidate to be one of the best in the world at that, because we're able to go out every single day and push with each other and kind of like elevate our game from a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Ali, anything you'd say that's different? So do you kind of have that same effect? See someone perform well and it motivates you?
Yeah, I'd say like pretty similar on the girls' side. I know for me, like watching world champs and at first watching the boys do so well, like the girls were super excited, and I think we like really felt that energy, and we were like, okay, like as a team we can do this. Like so for sure, I think in between the men's and women's team there's that. And just like between the girls too, we're quite competitive for sure, but also very helpful towards one another, always talking. Like Lo was giving me pointers on how to ski the flats at Levy a little bit faster, because she was quite fast on the flats. And then, you know, we're always trying to help each other, and there is that competitive aspect. But I think when one of us does it, we all kind of realize like, okay, like we can all do this, which is really cool, I think, as a team.
Yeah, that is. Jeff, anything you'd add to that?
I'd just say, like, leading up to those world championships that we just took a look at there, it was we kind of see the momentum building, I would say, through all of last year, and that was each race we were kind of building each other up. And like we started in a bit of a low spot in Vangan in the beginning of January, but a tough race. No one came out of there happy. Jack had a bit of a tumble, and then we followed up next week. We had 2 top 10s out of Broderick and Cam and Kitzbuhel, and then the following week I had a top 10 in Cortina. And so I guess Jack was just feeling a little left out and a little envious of us having strong results. So he really drilled it in there with the Super G there. But it just shows that it's a team dynamic. Like Jack wasn't having the best couple of races coming in there, but he had that energy from the rest of us, and that just, yeah, I think that helped skyrocket him to the top. And then at that point, the ball was already rolling. We had the momentum, and any one of us was in the hunt for a medal for the rest of that week, and it showed with Cam getting one in the downhill. And so it's really because it goes both ways. We have Jack that is the rabbit that we're chasing, and he gets really mad when we beat him because he likes to be top dog, and so I think that motivates him too. And it's a cool dynamic that really helps us always one up each other.
Yeah, it sounds really healthy, and it shows that there's a lot of depth there, and it promotes greater depth, which I think is awesome. And so, yeah, I think I just kind of summarize what we're talking about and looking at those world championship results and kind of message to ski fans, if we didn't know it already, just to be clear, our athletes are in delivery mode. Like they're beating and performing and beating the best in the world, right? And it's a very exciting time for Canadian ski racing. So well done is the overall message. I want to shift over to talk to the parents and kind of take things back a little bit into a broader context, because we talk about the path to the podium. And obviously, you know, the career in the ski racing, and Brad, you shared that story about the Joe Louis Cup or whatever it was, right? The modest beginnings. But the question is this, you know, it's a long path to get here where the athletes are now. How would you describe your role as a parent to support your child on this journey? And maybe Ken, I'll start with you on that.
You want to leave me for last? Why don't you start with Angus?
Okay, Angus, you're up.
That answer could be long or short.
Well, you know,
it's
a long story. I know that.
I think the key is that, you know, if you're on the ski hill, or if you're, you know, part of a club group, you know, getting involved in programs early. The kids make lots of friends. The parents make lots of friends. You know, it's a community, you know, support program. You know, I've known Brad since Ali and Jack were training here together at Georgian Peaks. And that friendship is, long lasting. You have discussions about what could be better, what's going well. You put groups together to raise money, i.e. like this path to the podium. But I think the biggest thing is that, as Brad said earlier, you just want to make sure your kids have fun, go fast, make it down the hill, and enjoy what they're doing. I think in addition to that, that you have to ask questions. We've said this in the last 2 years of this event. Ask questions, because Alpine Canada has a rich history. And if we don't understand history, we can't necessarily move forward and constantly make things better. And that's, it's a community.
Yeah.
So I can take from there that some of this is a bit of my own background in terms of the involvement that I had as an athlete. And Angus knows it too, because his sister Judy had a similar very strong cohort when she was having her most successful years, and as did I, my Crazy Canuck teammates. And so that's been a key focus, and so it's very incumbent on parents to understand that the best way you can keep your young athlete involved in a program is to have a strong cohort. The friends that support you, that motivate you, that act as rabbits, that pull you up. You have good days, you have bad days, and the team helps lift you. But then as you get closer and closer to the top, you need a team behind the team, and that's the role that the parents can play. And that's not an intrusive role, that's a supportive role. That's not telling the coaches what to do, that's listening to what the coaches say, supporting them, making sure the kids are there for all the programs, motivating them, lifting them up, but then also saying, how can I help? What can I do? Whether it's in terms of fundraising, whether it's in terms of side slipping a hill, whether it's working a race course, start referee, finish referee, gatekeeper, chief of race, chief of course, all sorts of different roles. And then as you go along, asking questions, not being afraid to ask questions, as Angus said, but at the same time, if there are gaps, if there are things that need to be filled, because that is what the competition is doing. And that's in part because when we go over to Europe with the Swiss, the Austrians, the Italians, the Germans, the French, the Norwegians, so many other countries, they have a deep-rooted sense of what goes on in the sport. They've all come up in it. They've been doing that very contribution that I just described for their own children, and so that's what it takes. And that's not an overly assertive role. That's a supportive role. You're there when you need to catch somebody. You're there when you need to push somebody. You're there when they need something, and you can help out. And you're there to cheer.
Yeah, no, great. Brad, what would you say?
Yeah, I think that last point Ken made is really key. I mean, as parents, we obviously want our kids to be, great people and great adults and brought up and do what's fun and all those great things. And I think we do the same thing in ski racing that we might in any other sport, whether it's volleyball or synchronized swimming or hockey or whatever. But the difference in skiing is that it's a little bit different. It's much different with what Ken just said than if, for example, Ali and Jack both played at the local York Mills Hockey Club here. They stayed in hockey. It's a much different support mechanism that the parents have to do. And then as ski racers, always chasing snow, trying to explain to Ali's school, Friday training, and they think that's just a fun ski day, is much different than if it was hockey or a different type of sport. So it's supporting all around that. And then, I found the ski community is very, very strong, and that's key. Obviously, it does take a village, and that's both financially, obviously, that we need those extra things for the kids to fill the gaps, the athletes to fill the gaps, and also just morally. I mean, when we're over in Europe and the athletes know that their parents and their friends are up at 4 o'clock in the morning watching a ski race, that really bolsters them. So it's that all-around support, and it's just different for ski racing because we have to chase snow in so many different areas.
Yeah, those are great points. And I will say that just in the work that I've done with you guys, each of the families, I've just been amazed at how much work and dedication, I mean, of course, what wouldn't we do for our kids? But obviously the world of professional ski racing and having a pro athlete as a child just takes it to another level of commitment that I've just been inspired by what you have all done to support your athletes and your kids. So that's just a comment for you all. So back to the athletes, then I have kind of rapid round question that's meant to kind of be fairly succinct and quick, but it kind of cuts to the core about your passion and your love of the sport. And so very quickly, I would just say, why do you love the sport, Allie?
For me, I think it's just the ability to make a really tight and fast arc on a ski. I've never found that like feeling anywhere else. So for me, the feeling of making a turn like that is why I love skiing.
Very cool. Jack?
I'm not sure. I think.
Come on, Jack, you're just like beating Jeff.
Yeah, I think a huge part for me is competing, and being able to like the idea of being able to ski the World Cup courses or the downhill courses on the circuit. Once you get to that level, there's really nothing like it. Like there's no way to experience that feeling other than doing it on the World Cup. So just having the opportunities to feel like I'm flying down a course effortlessly is definitely what pulls me to do it.
Very cool. What do you say, Jeff?
Well, Ricky Bobby, I want to go fast. But yeah, I think similar to what Jack said, the World Cup tracks are also unique, and each one it's a crazy challenge, and it's so much fun to figure each one out. And yeah, it's a cool puzzle that goes along with being able to go out there and go 150, 60 kilometers an hour. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, that sounds a little too quick, but yeah, that's the sport that you selected, and that's what you do, and you guys do it well. And Allie, you certainly sound like a slalom skier too, although I hear you ski pretty mean GS, so that'll be cool to see someday. So, okay, well, with the fun stuff comes the serious somewhat, and we're going to talk a little bit about education, and that's that balance between studies and school studies and ski racing. What are some of the things to be most mindful of? And Allie, we're going to start with you just because you have quite a impressive, story, having, attended Middlebury and being an All-American, with honors in economics. So how would you kind of describe that balance, and how were you able to maintain that through your early career?
Yeah, I think like for me, at least, I mean, I think high school and college were a bit different for me. High school, I ended up going to Green Mountain Valley School, and that was really great for me because it was all very laid out, and we had our workouts, we had our training, everything was just kind of set up for us. And then when I went to college, it was a bit more obviously of a personal choice to go and do that. And it was something for me to have, in addition to skiing, that kind of just allowed me to take some of the pressure off skiing and have something else in my life, which I really liked. I'm really happy to also be graduated now and be able to spend a bit more time focusing on skiing. But yeah, I mean, just managing school and skiing can be super tough. I think the key for me was definitely like building relationships with professors and being honest and trying to explain what my goals were and just being on top of my workload, because yeah, it definitely can be a lot. So I think that was a big part of maintaining and being able to go to school and ski at the same time for me.
Mm-hmm. And Jack and Jeff, do you have anything you'd add to that?
I mean, as a speed skier, obviously it's a bit of a different story. There's no access or the same access to NCAA. But that doesn't say that you can't do it. You can look at Eric Arvidsson, Ali's teammate. He has a degree from mid as well, and he's on the World Cup, starting to really pick up the pace. But as for my story, it's a bit more of a slow and steady with taking courses in the off season, kind of managing time and figuring out times that work to do school. Because in the season, obviously, we're in Europe the entire year and it's crazy busy, so it's tough to get in. But I think it's just figuring out what works with your schedule, and it's definitely doable.
Yeah. Anything to add, Jack? No. Okay. Okay, well that's helpful. So why don't we try to cover off from a parent side, talk a little bit about to help our parent racers. Let's talk about working with the governing body, because we talked a little bit about education, talked a bit about the role of a parent, but what are some of the key things to know and questions to ask kind of working with our governing bodies, provincial, national? Ken?
It really starts at the club. And so you do go through 3 levels. And as most families have more than just one ski racer, you often have them at different levels. So, but right from the one I think common denominator is that there are always more tasks to do than there are available people. So volunteering your time to support. This is not a sport where you drop your child off and go have your fun. You'll get plenty of opportunity to be able to ski and go to some pretty amazing places. But when to run a ski race, for the most part, it is run by the parents. There are some clubs that have professional staff to support. There are always additional needs, whether it's side slipping, whether it's gatekeeping. But it's also a thing that any parent can do is take an officials course, especially level 1, level 2. Those are relatively straightforward. It allows you to be able to then start to go down the officials pathway, which can go to some pretty amazing places. I've seen parents of ski racers or former ski racers go right to the Olympic Winter Games and be on the jury. And then again, when kids are training, from the fundamentals of making sure that when the athlete arrives, they're on time, their equipment is tuned, all of the things that somebody's got to be doing the supervision at home when you're fairly young. But as you progress up and you're working with the coaches, it's reinforcing what the coaches are trying to instill in the athletes, and that's the work ethic, the planning, the goal orientation, and working toward those goals. And I think anyone can recognize that those are skills that work in absolutely everything in life, especially in going through education and then into the workforce. So even if you do exit when you're relatively young and maybe still at the club level, you're getting skills that are going to last with you for a lifetime. But as you get to the upper levels, it's also not being afraid of the fact that funding is a challenge. But the community at large is very, very supportive. So if you are a family that is looking at budgets that being stretched, the biggest mistake you could make is to not ask, to not let people know that you could use with a little bit of help. And it's amazing how the community can rally. And we've had some of our most successful athletes have come from families of very modest background. It's often we are accused of being a rich person's sport. Most of the successful athletes on the Canadian Alpine ski team come from just regular Canadian families. There may be professionals involved, but for the most part, what you see behind these athletes are strong club programs supporting them, strong provincial programs supporting them, and ultimately working with the National Alpine Canada, the national organization, to make sure that you're always trying to fill all the gaps, to find the resources, and be supportive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, helpful. Yeah, for sure. And Angus, how would you characterize kind of your working with governing bodies through the path of both the Jack and Candace?
I don't really have anything to add that Ken didn't already mention, but I will say that, through they used to be called the C+ events or the Nancy Green leagues that Jack went through and my daughter Candace went through, and say Allie went through here in Ontario, going to the races, meeting people at the bottom, side slipping. And as you move up in the age bracket, I have an occupation where I was able to go out and spend, 2 to 3 weeks in, not Copper Mountain, but Panorama, and work the courses and meet people from across the country. And I did that for 6-7 years, and I miss those years, being on the hill in the early morning, side slipping, carrying gates, putting up fences, meeting people from Calgary, from BC, or Whistler, or many of the other ski resorts. And then, as Jack progressed and the NORAM circuit was finished with regards to Jack and Jeff and that core group. First year we went out to Lake Louise. I was on the side slipping crew with Ken Reed. And, as Jack and Jeff say, speed is amazing. Well, we were able to, do some of the course, in an old man's tuck, but I still love going fast. But participating in all the events and being on hill at the races and the venues, it's just really exciting. And I would advise people to try to do as much as they can while their kids are racing, and go to the events that they're competing in, because you do meet a lot of people, and skiers they're fun.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
If I could add one thing here that I shared with one parent this past summer, and it was sort of a bit of a eureka moment in my own head, that even after so many years of being involved, because it was an athlete who was wondering, okay, do they go fast or do they not? And as you work through the ladder from U12 into U14 to U16, and then finally making the step into the show, because that's what the FIS level is. Everything else is training for the FIS level. But we could talk along about that. But what struck me was it was an opportunity for this youngster to go over to train on the glaciers in Saas-Fee in Switzerland. And I realized that here it was a 16-year-old who was going to go over in a supervised environment with professional coaches, with a group of similar athletes, 16, 17, 18 years of age. And they're going to get to spend 2 weeks on a glacier in Switzerland. And the experience of that, to learn to be in that environment, to appreciate that environment, both its dangers and the safety that's put in place to protect you, but also the incredible experience that you get of having that opportunity. And it's something that's just not available in Canada and in North America. And to learn it at such a young age with qualified people helping you in a cohort, what an incredible life opportunity. And what an incredible experience to be Swiss culture, different languages, and in that mountain environment, to learn and appreciate that mountain environment in a safe, responsible way.
No, for sure. I agree with that. And Brad, you said, you were late to the sport, but how would you kind of characterize that experience on your side?
Yeah, I think what Ken and Angus have said is spot on. It's participating in the groups, getting to know people right from the club level, right from when they started all the way through. And then I would just add, as a newcomer, I had to grapple with and understand expectations of what others could provide. And as Ken said, it's not something where you don't drop your son or daughter off the hockey rink and go for a cappuccino. You need to participate in that. And what can the clubs give you? What can our provincial organizations give you, and what can Alpine Canada give you? And then using those along the way to the best of your ability, as Ken said. And those experiences that Ken just mentioned, I think our first one with Ali was to Chile, which was, I forget how old you were, Ali, 8 or 10 or 12 or something, of Georgia Peaks. But I mean, phenomenal experience to go there and everything that surrounds that. So asking questions, participating, gathering all that in, and then and working with all that.
Yeah, well, that's great commentary, and thank you all for those comments. And so at this stage, before we move on to the next topic, I'm just going to encourage our audience to use the Q&A feature to pose some of your questions to our athletes or parents that you'd like answered. We're going to do our best to address your questions. We will have prizes for the best questions. We are also encouraging you to use the comment chat area to kind of even just provide statements or things that you'd want the athletes to know. You're an excited fan and you want to say something about how awesome the Canadian men's and women's team are. Use that chat feature to do that. Like I say, we have awesome ski packages from both Head Canada and Atomic that we will be giving away to the lucky winner that comes up with the best question. So please get busy on that, and we will try to address as many questions as we can. And thank you to Atomic and Head Canada for those generous donations. I did also place in the chat area the link to donate to Path to the Podium. And I just want you to know that it's there. Should you feel interested or compelled to donate to the cause that we are trying to rally support for, specifically to fund gaps in the programming for both men and women. And this is kind of at the ethos of our organization, and why we're doing this is obviously foster important discussion, but we want to get funds to the team directly to help make a difference and allow them to continue to beat the best in the world, shall we say. Okay, so we're going to talk with the athletes a little bit about setbacks and how you come back from setbacks. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because I think everyone's more interested to be healthy, stay healthy, and to continue to strive for the podium. But Ali, maybe you can talk a bit about, you have a remarkable story, and you were at the top of your game in 2017 and got kind of injured twice, as I understand it. You had both knees injured at the same time and operated within just a number of weeks. How would you characterize your mental kind of ability to overcome that setback and get back to the top?
Yeah, it was definitely a hard time in my career. The biggest challenge that I had faced yet to that point, I think I was 19, and I was pretty lucky to not have an injury before that. But then I kind of just got slapped with 2 ACLs at the same time. So it was definitely really hard. I had one of my best seasons right before that happened. So I guess just like mentally kind of pushing through, like not being able to ski for a year, and then knowing that I not only wanted to get back to where I was, but even better than where I was also just kind of, it felt like a big challenge at the time. So I was really lucky to have my family and friends really help me through that time. And to be honest, that was a big reason why I started at college too, because that I was really struggling with coming back from that injury and not really being where I wanted to be. And school was a good outlet to kind of make the sport fun again. I had a lot of pressure on myself just from myself. So yeah, I think just going to school and having a bit more of the team environment, in the sense that you do go to races and compete as a team, that was really helpful in finding joy in the sport again, and really just helping to push me along to get back. And I was always motivated, but kind of continue to stay motivated to reach my goals, because yeah, that was definitely one of the hardest points in my career, even until now. So
yeah. And now, Jack, what about you? I mean, setback, you could take one of your choosing, but like even last year you had that spill in Wengen, you had to work your way back, and so how did you tackle that?
Yeah, I'm fortunate that I've had a few injuries in my, well, actually, I would say I've had only a single injury in my ski career, but I've been fortunate not to miss skiing through my career so far. And yeah, last year crashing, anytime you crash on at the World Cup level and downhill and Super G, I think it's the same for tech. There's a level of confidence that you have to get back, and a huge part of that is linked to fear. Like there is a level of fear involved in ski racing. It's not pushing out of a start gate isn't just, it's not as easy as just pushing out and being able to go as fast as you can. There's a few things you have to overcome, and so for me it was just getting comfortable again, pushing the same way and bringing the same level of confidence into the hard sections of each course, and being able to get that confidence back. You just continue to move forward. You figure out what really makes you good at what you do, and as long as you continue to work and put the time in, that stuff comes back relatively quickly.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. There's only one direction, right? And to stay positive, trust your instincts, and time is an input also. Jeff, do you have you have a setback you'd want to kind of tell us about?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had anything or any big injuries. I've definitely had more than a few spectacular spills on World Cup, including my first ever World Cup start, put her right in the A nets, and in a very fun fashion, but came out of it all right. But I think I'd more touch on just the side of it, that every time you push out of the start gate, you're accepting the risk of crashing and of setbacks, and you put faith in yourself and your technical ability that you're gonna get down all right. And I mean, it is risk, but yeah, it's something that you gotta have the confidence to overcome. And then when you do run into a setback, it's getting back on the horse, whether that's right there that day, figuring it out again, or maybe you do need a bit of time to recover. But once you do kind of make the steps to get back to the level you're at, it's definitely a long ways to go, and you need to take it step by step. That it's not easy, and that's something that I've had to deal with a few times. Fortunately, nothing that put me in an injured place, but yeah, mentally it is. Yeah, there's some races out there that it can take a while to bring it back.
Yeah, it seems to me that could be very valuable information for anyone in the sport, because setbacks are reality, right? And tell them that combination of time and mental perseverance and dedication, I think is very valuable. So we're going to move to some of the questions that have been posed to us on our Q&A. And so I'll start with one that says, what would you recommend for an athlete that came to the sport a little later than others? Who wants to take that one? Any tips to kind of?
I don't know. I'm definitely not the person who came to the sport later, but I remember when I came up to BC and started skiing with the Whistler crew, a lot of those guys hadn't skied courses before the age of 12 and 14. So they weren't necessarily new to skiing, but they were quite new to racing. And I think it just takes, you just have to want to be able to get better. I remember when I got over here, I'd been doing courses in racing from the age of 6 years old, and Riley Seeger, one of the others on the team, he had just started ski racing at, I think, the age of 14. That was his first year doing like an actual full race program, and by the time I came out here, he was already competitive with me. And to be able to get to that place, it just, honestly, I think it just takes hard work and effort to make the gains and understand skiing and what makes you go fast. And as long as you have other people around you who are pushing you and you can build off of, learn from, it makes the process faster. But to get to the World Cup, it's not an overnight thing. It doesn't just happen when you're 16 or when you're 18. It's something that you have to build to. A lot of the guys on our team, we didn't break through on the World Cup until we were 22, 21. So it's not something that needs to happen right away. If you're not the fastest in U16, you might be the best in the world by the time you're 26. So it's just being able to continue to push forward, even if you're not winning at a young age.
I think that's really good advice. Yeah. Okay, Ali, I've got one for you. Who is one person, anyone in the world, that you wish you could ride the chairlift with, and why?
Yeah, I think my sister asked this question actually. I'm gonna have to say my nephew, Jack. And yeah, Jack, there you go. He's named after you, I guess. But yeah, I'm really excited to see him ski. He's only 5 months right now, so it might be a little while. But yeah, once he's skiing, I'm gonna be really excited to go up the hill with him and hopefully show him a thing or two, and maybe he'll teach me something. Who knows?
5 months. We're gonna need the kid stop for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So another question: how do you guys hone your skills in the off season? I know I've seen some videos of ping pong. But anyone want to tackle that one? Jeff, what do you do in the off season, or to sometime taking a break, just what the doctor ordered?
Yeah, I think having time off skis is incredibly valuable. I have a theory that there's definitely no science behind this, but if you take a long break or extended break, whether that's a month, 2 months, 3 months, it really locks in that muscle memory that you were working in all season. And then when you step back into skis, you're starting from, I think, even better than a place that you left off in the spring, and you can just build that much more. So I think the time off is really important. But then I think for us, we're especially downhillers, we're a bit of adrenaline junkies. So it's always going to be something fast and in your face. So I think a lot of us have grown to mountain biking, and that's very similar type feeling where it's a little bit out of control and there's a high risk. And so I think we all have a lot of fun doing that. And it's I think it's a good stimulus to kind of keep things sharp. And when you snap the skis back on in the summer, you don't feel like things are coming at you too fast. It feels comfortable. And so I think it's important to stay in there.
Good. Love it. Okay, I had a question that's from Alberta, just saying U16 ski racers have participated in the Alberta Alpine Fitness Combine. So I think, Ken, this is coming your way. Curious if all provinces are running these fitness combines or tests, and what are the results being used for? Do you have any insight on that? Ken, does that?
I'm afraid I don't. I do know that they've been running the combine, but I believe they are. I know it's been used at the U16 Nationals, which were held last year. This year it's going to be in East-West. So I know that it's being held there. So I'm pretty sure all the provinces are participating in it. And the purpose is to have a database of fitness levels for each age category as the athletes progress up the pipeline.
Yeah, okay. Very good. Another question. Do you guys, well, I think we talked about this a little bit, but talking about the stress related to ski racing, how do you deal with it? Ali? Or Jack?
Sorry, I just wanted to touch on something about the previous comment. It's a little bit off of the topic of it, but I think just for parents, when you are getting your kids into ski racing, regardless of how into it they are, there's a few things with training that you should just be aware of if your desire is to put your kid into actual fitness training, is understand that before your kids or when you're at that young age, before you've gone through puberty, there is a very high level of technical ability you need to establish at a young age, and not so much worrying about the actual strength and the fitness scores that your kids are getting. I was a plus size human when I was in U14. I was not fit. I was very big, and as I grew up and as I went through puberty, I was able to learn from a very good sports scientist in Toronto how to properly train and treat my body. And that set me up for success once I got to the higher levels. But just going into a gym and pushing weight and running into the ground and doing these things without actually learning how to properly train your body and how to properly do the movements can cause a lot more problems down the road and can cause issues once you are at the highest levels. So really being conscious about training your kids or as a kid, like training smart and learning how to actually train properly and not just thinking that lifting the most amount of weight in the gym at 16 is going to get you to that next level, because that can cause back problems when you're 26 to 30, when you're actually trying to compete on the World Cup. And understanding those things is a key factor to build your knowledge and move into those higher levels of sport.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. To be very careful and seek proper advice, you know, as things progress. So that's good. So Ali just had that question that someone wanted to know how you cope with stress towards racing. You know, so how do you calm the nerves and let your body do what it needs to do?
Yeah, definitely. I think it changes every race. Like, for me, some races I feel super calm already. Some races, I'm really nervous. So, one thing I like to do is a lot of breathing. It's something that I've done more of in the past like year. And I find, especially like I'm someone with a pretty high heart rate and some nerves and anxiety already. So I think just like having that tool in my box to kind of address when I'm feeling really nervous. And it might not be breathing for everyone, but I think just kind of exploring that and seeing what can calm you down. And I think also just like thinking of skiing as something you do and not who you are. I think it can get a little more stressful when you kind of associate who you are with results and stuff like that. So like for me, I know my family loves me whether I come last or first. So that's a big thing when I get nervous too. I know I'm gonna have the same support no matter what happens at the end of the day. So those are kind of like two things that I use to keep nerves at ease a little bit.
Good, that's good. Jeff and Jack, I have a question. If you mountain climb in the off season, any comment?
For a few years, we stopped centralizing for training, so I haven't had the opportunity to be out in Calgary with Jeff as much over the past years, but I've still kept up with it a little bit, and we definitely did some cool things, but unfortunately not in the past couple of years.
Nothing free solo, hopefully.
Yeah,
no,
for
always
me,
always with ropes.
We climbed a ton one year, but unfortunately I developed a bit more and threw on another 10 kilos, and that felt that when you're hanging off the wall. That's where I realized maybe ski racers are not built to be climbers.
I guess it depends what discipline, but yeah, I was going to ask if that's a good exercise for that. How about just some core advice for up and coming ski racer, you know, like kind of the old adage, like ski fast, have fun. What's for some of you, like the core message, like for an up and coming ski racer who's really jazzed by the sport, you know, words of motivation?
Okay, I need to think about it for a second. I think for me is try to park results and put them aside. As long as you're able to like put down your best skiing every time you push out of a start gate, results will come. I think a lot of people can get caught up on what they want and what they result wise or expectation wise, and as long as you can put that aside and know that if you bring the best of what you can do, that stuff will come by itself. There's no reason to think about it or even try to will it. It's just, as long as you put the effort forward and work and really try to hone your skills and bring the best of what you can do every time you push it to a start gate, all of that stuff will come and you can celebrate it after.
I love it. That's good. I have another question here, just talking about, I think, advice that you've received from a parent or a coach that really helped propel you. So maybe we distill that and say, did each of you have like a breakthrough coach at some stage in your career that you remember as being important to your recipe to get to the top? Allie?
I mean, I've had a few coaches that have had pretty substantial impacts on my career, I'd say. But I mean, as an example, I remember when I was younger at Georgian Peaks, and my coach at the time, Richard Long, said, if you want to be a World Cup skier, you would go hike Riot and ski down it like this many times or whatever. So then I'm going and hiking up it. The liftie's like, hey, the lift is open. You can ride it if you want. I was like, no, I'm good. So I don't know, just like little moments like that where I guess I realized what I did have big goals in the sport, because why else would I do that?
Yeah, and Richard's name has come up before in discussions with others in this group. So, Jack, do you want to add to that? It looked like you had your hand up there.
No, but yeah, I've had a few coaches. Richard is definitely one of the first coaches I had that kind of instilled what you have to do for excellence. He was extremely hard on us, but in a way that kind of motivated you to want to be better. And yeah, from my point of view, from a very young age, that type of motivation really worked. And it taught me resilience, a huge amount of resilience, being able to listen to somebody who cares a lot about you, but you also trust and the things that he says matters, and being able to filter what you need from him and understanding where the coaches are actually coming from. Yeah, he did a really good job of that. And then, of course, I would say my dad a bunch. Growing up, there's one memory I have that really kind of stuck with me. It was at the Georgian Peaks Club Championships. My dad said, if you don't win, don't come home, just as kind of a funny gesture. And I didn't win, and I was at the lodge until I think like 9 o'clock before they realized where I was. And I think that was just a little bit of my crazy competitiveness came from, was if I don't win, I don't get to come home. So it's yeah, it's just little moments like that kind of pushed me to want to be my best self and be able to be one of the best skiers in the world.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. So one of our callers did mention that the chat is disabled, so we're maybe not getting some of the comments that I was saying. If people don't have a question, you can send a comments into the racers. We have seen a few already. Just people saying congratulations on the momentum you're having carrying into the season, and lots of good comments. So doing our best to get through these questions. There are quite a few. And I had posted the donation link for Path to the Podium for direct funding to the team on the chat. But as I understand, it appears to be disabled. So I apologize for that. But for any of you who registered for the event, that donation link is on the poster and or on social media. So please pick it up. Any donations are valuable. As I say, we're putting money directly to work to fund gaps in the existing programs for both men and women's teams. So thank you for that. We'll do a few more questions and then wrap it up, because we are coming in at about an hour 15 here. And so the next question I have here is, have you changed as an athlete in the last few years? Any approach different to training, mental toughness, or different approach to dry land? Anyone want to take that question? Has the approach been materially different, let's say, in the last 3 years?
Yeah, I can touch on that. I think for my personal experience, I obviously came out of NORAM feeling really good, and when I took the step to World Cup, it was a bit of a shocker and a realization that it's going to take a lot more than what I've been doing to take a big step here. And so it's yeah, a good realization that every aspect of it that we're doing, like in the dry land, it's got to be a higher focus, a higher intent, and on hill, you got to be much more kind of locked in. You can't just be going about your days, just going through the movements, just expecting time on snow to be enough. You got to be putting a lot of purpose behind what you're doing and trying to figure it out yourself and with your coach on the movements that you need to be locking in, and just like what technical aspects you need to that are kind of glaring in your skiing right now, and what you need to take the step. And I think a big part of that is anything that you need to work on technically, you need to take time outside of the course and start slow with sliding around on the skis, and then bring it into free skiing, and then you bring it into the course. To make change technically in the course is very, very difficult, and I've found a huge amount of success taking that method, and I think it attributes, or I attribute a lot of my success last year to just working so hard like that all summer.
Excellent. Well, that's good. That's good content. Anything, Ali or Jack, you want to add to that? Approach training any different, or it's working? Don't change it. Don't change a thing. Just keep racing fast as you guys are. So I had a question as we kind of get near to the end of this, and I want to thank everyone again, because we could go on, and if you're a fan like me, you very well could. But I wanted to pose this question openly, but I think I'm going to start with you, Ken, just because your familiarity with the sport, having been a racer successfully, and now having kids in the sport, and working with the various governing bodies. How, as we move forward, I think we got to ask ourselves, relating to the sport in Canada, how well are we set up for success? And when we consider the resources and the framework for the team to succeed, we know who the competition are: the Austrians, the Swiss, the Italians, very, very formidable. How well is our team set up to compete, and where are the gaps? So we know that Path to Podium is committed to gap funding, but maybe you could address that a little bit.
Well, I think over the course of the past couple of years, the good thing is we have two core groups that are that are clearly in place: the men's speed group, the women's tech group, and both have, as we talked about cohorts, they have a clear group that you can see when they get into when they're at a World Cup race. That we have 5 or 6 that are in men's speed. We have a core group of 4 to 5, depending on one that's out with an injury right now. And a little bit different between slalom and GS, but still that core group that train together and work together, and that's important to protect it. It's really reflecting on how did those two groups get built, and it didn't happen overnight. It took a number of years, 7-8 years. Behind them is a solid group of parents that similarly work hard to support the respective groups. The key that I think I'll touch on, because there's many different aspects of it that we can go into, and as you said, Nick, we could go talk on endlessly about all the different challenges and successes we have out of the sport. But when we talk about the gaps, I might remind everyone that if you go to a midget hockey game, they're doing a 50-50. What are they doing? They're raising money for the club, and that's in hockey. Every sport has gaps. Every sport. There are always little bits and pieces. The thing is as the closer you get to the top, those gaps become really important, because those become the differences between 1st and 4th, or 10th and 12th, and so you need to be focused all the time, and that's where we need to have strong coaching groups to support the athletes. That I think is in place, but we have to make sure that they're well supported. But then for everyone, it's always number one, it's asking the question. Any healthy sport organization will welcome questions, will welcome challenges, will welcome as long as they're not intrusive. If someone is really questioning and criticizing a program, that's quite different than saying, what are the different things that can be done? How do we make sure the athletes get everything they need? And recognizing that it is an insatiable appetite to try to fill all these different things, but it's the same in every sport. And it's not necessarily more onerous than skiing. And in part, our secret weapon is the fact that the ski community is very supportive. It's very large. And when we look at the 2 million skiers in Canada, and people often say, does your average skier relate to the Canadian Alpine ski team? Not directly, but I can assure you that when they're watching the Olympics, they care. And especially if the team is successful and is poised to maybe win medals, they care big time. And so it's really it's incumbent on us all to be creative about ideas of how we generate those revenues. Be proactive in terms of sharing the news of what our sport does at all levels, not just when we finish in the top 10. We should be telling stories about finishing in the top 30 and as athletes progress. And then on top of that, recognizing that those little gaps. So comes back to, and I'll relate the one story of the coach that was available to Jeff and Cam when they didn't go to the Olympics in Pyeongchang 3 years ago, I guess now. And they had that coach went with them to Kitzbuhel for a Europa Cup, where Cam was on the podium, Jeff was on the podium, and then a week later, Cam won the downhill, and Jeff was seventh in the next race. And those are their best ever performances. And that came in part because funding was made available for an extra coach to make sure that those guys were actually at a Europa Cup race rather than sitting at home in Canada.
Yeah. Now, any observations from the women's side too that Ken you know of, or Brad you know of, in terms of the gaps there, and any challenges that some of our efforts can fill here?
Yeah, we've got, of course, I think the men and the women have the same kind of gap size between them, and filling those gaps, whether it's having an extra physio on the road with us, or we have a very strong slalom group, obviously, and then sliding some of those girls and to make sure they get some tech training means that you have to split the team, and that could involve an extra van and an extra 5 or 6 nights of lodging and moving that around. So it's giving them those gap positions that they need, because as we're sitting around at home, as Ken would say, or not getting that training, the Swiss girls and the other girls are getting that. So it's pretty much the same gaps. Our organization does a great job with what we have, and it's just making sure to get those little gaps that the coaches can plug them, so they can really properly compete, and give our athletes the very best tools to do that.
That's it. That's what we're after. And I'm reminded of some of the promotions that we've done for this event series. We Ali, you and the girls were so good at putting together this compilation where you say, I love Paths to the Podium because, and I think it's Laurent Saint-Germain says, because it's a little boost that helps you be the best. And I think as a community and as parents, that's what we want to arrive at, right? Is to say, listen, there are extra layers of support that can make a big difference. And we're seeing that in the results. So I think it's a feel good story, and one that we really got to build on. So I'm going to probably wrap things up now. We're coming in at an hour and a half, although I know there's a good appetite to have more dialogue. We will have your questions all considered for our prizes. So thank you for all the really good questions. We didn't get to all of them, but each question that was submitted will be considered for the prizes, ski packages from both Head Canada and Atomic. I did just want to circle back and thank you all for attending. Thanks to all the panelists for their dedication to this cause. It's been immensely rewarding for me to observe, just as a fan, just as, you know, a fan of the sport, and as a volunteer, to try to bring this kind of, you know, call it tribal campfire together. That's a very Canadian thing, by the way, to talk about our success and how we continue to foster success, inspire the next generation of racers. Lord knows that's how we got to where we are now, with you know, Ali, Jack, and Jeff, and others that have been doing extremely well. So I would like to just let you know that in the Collingwood area in Ontario, GTA, we are hosting a dinner gala event past the podium, where we have a very exclusive number of guests, just over 100 guests, that will feature a pretty high profile evening and a really high quality event where we're raising funds for this very cause, the Path to the Podium. So invite you all to reserve your seat. We still have a few left, and hope to see you there. Otherwise, to you athletes, Jack, Jeff, and Ali, congrats on your recent success, and we will be cheering for you all the way throughout the season. So thank you all, and at this stage that I say good night. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Take
Thank you,
care.
everybody. Good job.
Thank you.
Well, see you on the slopes.
And thanks for all the questions.